Welcome to the Quick 10 podcast, brought to you by Quick Track, focusing on all things FedCon and cyber defense from different perspectives and different personalities, all in 10-ish minutes. Here's your host, Derek White.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Quick 10 podcast, live and in person here at CUI-CON 2026, and I am interviewing for the third time, first guest to be on the podcast 3 times, Koren Wise. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm glad you came back a third time.
I'm happy to be here.
I celebrated that, but then I'm starting to think that maybe people don't want to be on a third time.
No, I want to be on a third time.
Good. Just
I'm
double
really
checking.
feeling very honored.
Good. Huge prizes for the third time guests. We'll get that in the mail.
Oh, I'm sure.
Big, huge.
Massive.
Yes. So we did this last time we did this in person was a year ago. Magically enough, that was a quick year.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that was a quick year.
It was a quick year.
I thought it was 6 months ago.
There are days where it doesn't feel quick.
No.
But it has been 12 months. That's crazy to think. And then before that, I think was like 6 months prior to that. So a lot has changed since we did this the first time. And now that we're on the third time. You're speaking this week. Before you get into any of that, I want you to make sure, for those that don't watch on a regular basis, that you tell them who you are, what you guys do, and then we'll chat for a few minutes.
Well, my name is Koren Wise. I'm the CEO and lead assessor at Wise Technical Innovations, and we are a C3PAO and an authorized training provider, and we hold CCP and CCA classes. We've taught a lot of the assessors in the ecosystem. It's super rewarding. We love what we do, and we love our students and our clients.
That is truth.
Mm-hmm.
I know people who have gone through your training, and it's always good things. You guys do great stuff with your solutions and your other hands-on work, as we'll call it, which is great.
Which we've gone away. We don't do consulting anymore.
I should clarify that you did do that, yes. Mm-hmm. But that was always good. And now with the C3PO stuff, the world is different than it was when we did this a year ago, where there weren't a ton of authorized C3PAOs. We've now seen the assessments start to happen, and people go through, good and bad, but obviously more lessons learned wherever we can get them.
Yes.
Your topic tomorrow is what?
My topic tomorrow is one that they gave me a challenge. So normally I'm in some super technical topic. Tomorrow I'm doing mergers, acquisitions, and JVs.
Yes.
And thank God they gave me a partner that's a lawyer. So Jacob will be my partner, and he will hopefully help me with the things that I am not as familiar with, like the legal side of things.
Yes. Anybody who's familiar with that and other stuff is a saint. So, yes, okay, so that is a good topic. So, on the side of, you're an organization, you want to go into work to do that with them and some other people, that is a huge topic. And it wasn't overly clear on the front end of how that's going to go for me, the organization, working with you, an organization, on something that we're going to do together. Are there anything, this will come out after your presentation, so you're not giving away any secrets here, but anything there that you think is most important to discuss?
I think one of the things that's making our conversation hard tomorrow is something about the state of the ecosystem right now, and something about the state of EMASS right now, which is it has a few issues with adding cage codes. And so you can talk about that topic, how it theoretically should work with scoping, and what would have an impact on scoping, so much so that you would need to be assessed again. That's probably what we'll focus on tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But right now, because there are some weird things in the EMASS system that I don't think they expected, it's not easy to add a cage code. And it also has certain effects on the date of their assessment, or what it looks like in the eyes of the DoD. So we'll have to kind of address this nuance that's there right now that I think they're going to either address or change or give us some direction on. So it's kind of a hard time to give a talk like this, because we don't know what's going to happen with this EMASS issue and cage codes, but we're just going to talk honestly about the state of where things are now, and probably where they'll land, and how scoping is impacted by these types of events, and then whether or not you would be looking at reassessment, and maybe some pointers on if you're trying to avoid reassessment, the very few situations where you could not be looking at a reassessment.
It does feel like there's an emphasis on whether, maybe the example is a holding company.
Yeah.
So they have name it, 20, 40, 100, doesn't matter, companies underneath them that they, at this point I don't want to spoil it, but with the cage code breakdown on trying to do what they can to pay less for overall assessments,
Right.
And time them, because you can tell that they're paying attention to some things because they don't want to do. So if they're trying to put them all into one enclave, or they're trying to separate them out per cage code per project, but this one works with these three and these two work with, but then these two never talk to each other. I mean, is that part of? I know it's hard to talk about, but is that one of those examples of the cage code breakdown gets a little bit more difficult to do?
That's a really good example, and really the question always remains, is the SSP still useful, true, and accurate when you add this change into the environment? I mean, you can add a cage code sometimes, and if they're going to use every single thing the exact same way, and the only thing that's being introduced are new people that need to be authorized using the same authorization process that's written in the SSP, there's a chance there that perhaps not a lot is changing, no significant change is occurring. But that's rare. I mean, think about most acquisitions, mergers, and JV endeavors. It's hard to say that would be feasible.
I agree, and the reason I bring that up is the conversations that happen where right now they're right here, and for the next 2 years they may not be planning to do any sort of acquisition or adjustments to a scope, but they have the people making the decision technically don't really have that control over that conversation because something might change in 6 months.
Exactly.
We're gonna bring them in. Okay, well, anybody who's been through that, bringing them in is not just lift them and drop them into something. There's system, there's handoffs, there's migrations, which then requires a recertification. There's really no way to avoid that.
Yeah, I mean, the second that the SSP that was assessed originally is not going to work for this situation, or the scope is not going to work for this situation, or you're trying to use things that were never assessed, you can be sure that you are looking at needing to be reassessed.
Specifically, if some of them go from a digital workflow to then needing to be physical.
Absolutely.
A lot of people ask that question, which is a huge shift, and there is not a way to avoid that from happening, which is good to hear. That again, and in the HLO, all these different things on the cage code side, is there something that I know it's hard to talk about, but is there something that you can encourage people to do besides talking to you, obviously, but that they can do to help navigate some of that before they pick up the phone and try to figure out what path they want to take?
Well, what I like that the lawyer who's joining me is going to talk about, Jacob, and I wish I could remember his last name right now, but I actually just met him as well, and he's amazing. But he's really going to try to talk about thinking this through. Like, should you really be trying to avoid reassessment? And there's all these other things that you have to think about. And he really talks about it from a buyer's perspective and a lawyer's vetting perspective and all the things that they are asking about something they want to buy. And so he's going to take this not only from, we don't always want to think of getting reassessed as bad. It's a small change type thing if you are, going into a much better situation. So he will talk about it from the angle of things that you do want to avoid if this is not something that you want, which would be another CMMC level 2 cert. And he's going to talk about things that buyers care about and things that lawyers care about and all of that pre-gaming stuff that they do. And then I'm going to talk about it from an assessor's point of view, which is, even if you think about, I learned so much about JVs just from having to do this project, but every time that two companies decide they want to spin off a JV, it's normally because they want to tackle or go for a contract, and it results in a brand new cage code. They come together, but a new cage code is almost always an element of it. And a lot of people want to say, like, oh, well, we can just use one or the other's SSP, or we can use a little bit of both. Since if we were both already certified, can't we just do this together from our own systems and use them when we need to? But that is not the way that CMMC works, because the SSP doesn't address that new dynamic, that new relationship, authorization under those circumstances. It addresses authorization under the circumstances of one or the other. But now you've got a very different situation. You've got new CUI flows. You've got CUI flows coming into a brand new a whole new dynamic. So
teams working together instead of apart.
I just don't think a lot of what was written in either of their SSPs is just based on my experience with assessments. That SSP is very unlikely to be true if they're piecemealing this thing together and using different elements. You've got to talk about when and why and how, and when are you using yours and when are we using mine, and at the end of the day, maybe we should just make a new one.
Yeah, well, not to mention on assessment day when you go to ask the questions, let's just say during the acquisition or whatever, that merger, not even that, but even on a joint venture, roles change.
Yeah.
So if someone today is in a role of answering certain questions on an assessment day, but then move to another role, what documentation are they looking at? What are they going off of there can immediately be a bad problem, because now you're answering a question that has nothing to do with what it says over here because things change. So that's got to be very common in that scenario,
Absolutely.
doesn't it?
And from a buyer's perspective, they want to know what UID you're using, what system security plan you're using for the CUI involved in the contract you're about to be awarded. And so if you think about it from the perspective of being CUI centric and that contract's data, that's when you begin to realize your SSP isn't really talking about that. It's talking about other things that we're going. It could be, but a lot of times it is not.
Also, more importance of doing it regularly, not just every 11 and a half months, having your program in place so that when changes do happen, you can predict when they're going to happen.
Yes.
And you can make the decisions to adjust coming up versus waiting until one of the top questions over the next, how many years is going to be like, hey, we're about to acquire here, or we're about to go into work with here. Tell me about this. And if you can't have a good answer of your program of CUI or cybersecurity, it's just one layer of those questions that can devalue a company. It can cause, how do your systems look? And like, I didn't realize you guys were doing it that way. That's going to be a problem if we're going to try to do it this way. It definitely is one of those things that'll be interesting to see in a year from now when we possibly do this again.
Yes.
As the fourth time guest.
I have an Easter egg for you.
Oh gosh, yes.
Did you, since we were talking about significant changes, I like to do this.
Yes,
Significant changes, which we've never really gotten a clear idea of what it is, but in the new GSA document that came out where they were talking about the GSA assessments that they may introduce, they have an amazing definition of significant change in there that really the CMMC program should just go grab and then bring over and say, this is finally our definition of a significant change. It is very detailed.
Good.
It is very, have you read it? Have you seen it?
I saw something posted about this, but I have not had time.
I didn't know they posted about it, but
I thought I saw someone bring this up as what do you think scenario on this same topic, because that was always the big thing with 171 and such is, for example, if you jump into an infrastructure change, you go from doing it yourself into an enclave. Significant. If you change one tool out to another tool, some people thought that's not significant. But where's the tool? Who's managing? Who configured it? Big change, because there's CUI in there. That was always significant. Was where I love to use air quotes on that, because we used to do the same thing, which is why they want you to do it again and assess again. Is that you don't make a change and then in 8 months from now realize that you missed something during the change. You have no way to explain that.
And we could guess all day long, but at the end of the day, we need the Department of War to tell us where's that line. Which changes are not significant and can be handled under change control, what external connections can be added under change control, and then we just keep going on with life, and then where do we go too far, and now we're in significant change.
So the FedRAMP world's a little different. So there's things like that in place for reasons for change management, change control boards, and all that kind of stuff. So, well, good Easter egg, because that means I have to go do some homework. So thank you for that. They've a lot
of homework the past few weeks, haven't they?
Yes. We're not even talking about some of it. I know I've already asked some people about some of the changes in 7019 and such that they're not even changing their presentations for, because it's just not worth it right now.
We should have talked about my hissy fit about that instead of the other stuff, but we'll get to that.
We'll save that
time.
For the unfiltered podcast that we can do. That's 4.5 hours long. I don't know. We'll make it up. You can be the first one on that one, and the second and the third one. It'll be great. No, this is good. Okay, so I want you to tell people where to go to talk to you about your C3PO services, and trainings are very, very important. I can't stress that enough. I don't recommend a ton of people for training. I have a very select number, and you're on that one.
Thank you.
Because the feedback is always positive. The number of people I see come up to you at conferences that meet you for the first time saying, "Oh my gosh, I went through your training."
I know, it's so touching.
It makes a big difference. So where can people go to connect with you and learn more?
So our URL is wti.us, and you find everything that you need there, including the link to free SPRS Friday, which everybody should come to start with, and that will kind of get you the lowdown on where we're at with this whole thing, and then help you find your way to CCP class, which everybody needs to have someone in their life that's taken CCP if they're going through CMMC assessments.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for being the first 3-timer, and it's always good. I'll do it every day if you want. So thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and make sure to subscribe to the Quick 10 podcast wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about Quick Track, visit our website at www.quicktrack.com.